Charlie Matthews had seen better days. At just 14, he had learned more about survival than any boy his age should. The streets of Greenville had become his home, park benches his bed, and the flickering neon lights of late-night diners his only nighttime company. Yet, despite the harshness of his world, Charlie held on to a quiet hope, the kind that whispered that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow would be different. It was on one of those chilly autumn evenings, as the last remnants of sunlight slipped behind the towering buildings, that Charlie heard the faint, distressed mewling from a nearby alley. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since yesterday morning, but curiosity pulled him toward the sound. He rounded the corner, carefully stepping over broken glass and discarded wrappers, and found a small, shivering figure pressed against a damp cardboard box. A cat. Its glossy black fur, dusted with flecks of gold in the waning light, shone even through the grime of the alley. Two wide, emerald-green eyes stared up at him, equal parts frightened and hopeful. Charlie dropped to his knees, extending a cautious hand. "Hey, little buddy," he whispered, his voice soft as the evening breeze. "Where'd you come from?" The cat blinked, shifting slightly but not retreating. Charlie noticed a thin, rose-gold collar around its neck, a small tag dangling just beneath its chin. He leaned in closer, his breath fogging in the cool air, and read the engraved name, Daisy. "Daisy, huh," he murmured, scratching the cat gently behind the ears. Daisy's purring was immediate, a steady rumble that resonated through his hand and sent a surprising warmth through his chest. Charlie looked around. No one in sight. No frantic posters or calls for a lost pet, just the distant hum of traffic and the occasional honk of a horn. He hesitated, glancing down at his threadbare shoes and the empty, crumpled soda can near his foot. He could barely feed himself, let alone a cat. But Daisy's eyes held his, trusting and pleading. "All right," he sighed, scooping the cat into his arms. "Let's get you somewhere a bit warmer." For the next few days, Charlie's life took on a strange, comforting rhythm. He scoured the dumpsters behind the bakery for stale bread and leftover scraps, saving the softer pieces for Daisy. When he managed to find a few coins on the sidewalk or convince a passerby for spare change, he splurged on a small can of tuna from the corner store. They huddled together in the back of the old, abandoned laundromat he called home, sharing body heat as the nights grew colder. As the days passed, Daisy seemed to bring out a side of Charlie he'd nearly forgotten, the part of him that felt needed, valued, loved. He whispered stories to her at night, tales of what his life had been like before he'd ended up on the streets, of his dreams to one day find a real home, of a future where he wasn't just another face lost in the city's shadows. Then, one rainy afternoon, as Charlie and Daisy sheltered under a graffiti-streaked overpass, a large digital billboard on the side of a building across the street caught his attention. A stunning woman, with flowing blonde hair and a radiant smile, posed in a designer dress. The words beside her face read, "Olivia Perry, Greenville's top supermodel." Charlie froze. Dangling from Olivia's slender wrist in the ad was a small, familiar-looking rose-gold collar, identical to the one resting around Daisy's neck. He blinked, heart pounding. Could it be? Later that night, Charlie took a closer look at Daisy's tag. Flipping it over, he saw a tiny, engraved address, one he had never noticed before, likely overlooked in the low, flickering light of his makeshift shelters. The next morning, after sharing one last crumbling biscuit with Daisy, Charlie set off toward the address, his heart heavy with both hope and dread. The thought of losing his only companion twisted his stomach, but he knew deep down that Daisy deserved better, a warm home, real meals, and the safety he couldn't provide. When he reached the towering gates of a sprawling estate, Charlie hesitated. A security guard approached, eyeing the boy's torn hoodie and scuffed sneakers with suspicion. I think I have something that belongs to Ms. Perry," Charlie stammered, holding Daisy protectively to his chest. The guard raised an eyebrow but, after a brief radio call, nodded and led Charlie through the gates, up the winding stone path to the front door. Moments later, the door swung open, and Olivia Perry herself appeared. She was even more breathtaking in person, tall, poised, her blue eyes sharp yet unexpectedly kind as they fell on the cat in Charlie's arms. Daisy, she gasped, her voice breaking as she reached out to take the trembling feline. Daisy immediately nuzzled into her chest, purring loudly. Olivia's gaze shifted to Charlie, and for a moment, the two locked eyes. She took in the boy's ragged appearance, the thinness of his frame, the tired lines etched into his young face. Something in her expression softened. "Thank you," she whispered, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "Thank you for taking care of her." After Charlie left, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about him. Did he not have a home? Where were his parents? Was he safe? Without a minute to waste, Olivia called her assistant, Henry, and asked him to find Charlie. After a few calls, Henry discovered that Charlie had been seen sleeping on a park bench in Rose Gold Park. Without hesitation, Olivia set out to find him. When she arrived, she found Charlie curled up on the bench, shivering in the cold night air. Gently, she shook his shoulder, and his eyes fluttered open, surprised and a bit confused. "Come with me," she said, her tone warm yet firm. Charlie hesitated for only a moment before nodding, climbing into the back of her car. As they drove, Charlie asked quietly, "Are you sure about this?" Olivia smiled, meeting his gaze in the rearview mirror. "Yes, I'm sure. I saw how you took care of Daisy, even though you had nothing. That means something." During the drive, Olivia called her butler, asking him to prepare some clothes for Charlie and have the guest room ready. When they arrived, she led Charlie inside and showed him to a small, cozy room with a soft bed and warm blankets. As Charlie showered, washing away the grime of countless cold nights, Olivia had her chef prepare a hot, comforting meal. When Charlie came out, dressed in clothes that were a bit too big but warm and clean, he paused at the sight of the steaming dishes laid out on the dining table. Tears welled in his eyes, and he quickly wiped them away, overwhelmed by the kindness he hadn't felt in so long. As he ate, Olivia gently brought up the idea of him staying with her for a while, not wanting to spook him. Charlie thought for a moment, then nodded, his heart swelling with a hope he hadn't dared to feel in years. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Charlie grew healthier, his cheeks filling out, his eyes brightening. He had a tutor, went with Olivia to her modeling gigs, and spent his free time with Daisy. He was like a little brother to Olivia, and the two became inseparable. One day, as they sat together in the garden, Olivia took a deep breath and asked, "Charlie, how would you feel if I adopted you?" Charlie's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. He broke into a wide, tearful smile, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I'd love that." In that moment, both their lives changed forever, bound not just by chance but by a love as pure as the gentle purring of a rescued cat.